Doo-doo-boodle-doo, boodle-doodle-doo. Alrighty. Well, you see the title. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. So, I'll put it this way. I'd say I'm on the path towards anti-capitalism and realize that capitalism is a dud. Not in the sense that, it's obviously enriched many people, but it's something that has to continually co-opt ideas. And so the thing is, it also destroys people's lives and, has huge reserves, armies of labor and everything else. The thing is, though, they create that to be a proper anti-capitalist, you have to be an anti-imperialist. And because of that, you will get the idea that, especially if you're an American like me, a fat, chunky American, you realize that you benefit from the exploitation of people in the third world. And so I do realize that. I do. But even furthermore, me, as a white person, quote unquote, as much as they'll say, well, race is this is one of the things I can't really get my head around completely. I'll be honest with you. When they say, oh, well, first worlders benefit from third world exploitation, and I'm not going to sit here and deny that, of course. What I say to that, though, is how do you build solidarity from there? That's something I don't really hear about. It's like, okay, well, we need to recognize that. Okay, where do we go from there? That's the whole thing to me. And then, of course, like I say, it goes further into the idea of whiteness. And like I say, please, someone can correct me in the comments. I'm trying to be good faith here, not do it this way. But what do you mean by whiteness? Or even, because obviously the idea of white supremacy. Because the thing is that capitalism, to me, has already co-opted these ideas to a point. And that, now there is more representation from, black folks or folks of Indian descent, mostly from, I'm trying to think of the caste, but basically, from a higher caste in India, the Brahmin, that's it, yeah, the Brahmin caste of India. Or certain black folks who have, risen up through the system, or Asians to a point, whether that be Chinese or, Vietnamese or Filipinos, et cetera, and they reach that higher point. And so capitalism and, liberals will point and they will say, how can it be white supremacy when we have all these folks that are there? Now, of course, the smarter observer, more intelligent observer would say they still act, they're still products of white supremacy, right? And that they still promote imperialism and enslaving other folks so that they can enrich themselves and give the crumbs to people like me and, everyone else in the first world, right? Like I said, I'm trying to talk about this good faith. The reason I say this is because if the numbers really are true that white folks, I use this term loosely, I'm trying to be careful, but basically white folks, I'm not even going to say European because I will repeat this again and again and again. To me, Americans and Canadians, unless they have moved to the United States or Canada within the past, I don't know, I'll be generous, within the past 10 years, they have nothing to do with Europe. That's why I refuse to call myself a European. I have nothing to do with Europe, and they don't want anything to do with me. And I know Europe is a continent, but it's like still, I don't have anything to do with France or Germany or, the UK, Great Britain, however way you want to put it, Ireland. I have no connection with that. And of course, like I say, you will get these folks, and this is the schizophrenia that goes on in these types of circles to me, where it's just like, well, white folks need to go back to Europe. You'll hear Jason Unruh say that, and I'm like, okay. And so when I see this idea that it's like, well, they're in trouble too. Okay, what does that mean? That just means alienation. And it's one of those things of, okay, well, how do I be involved with that? And going back to the original idea of being anti-imperialist, it's like, okay, I could say support for Bashar al-Assad, or I could say support for Xi Jinping and the Communist Party of China, or support for Hezbollah, or support for Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I don't have problems with those statements. Ultimately, though, because this goes into the issue of critical support, and particularly for Assad. And like I say, even when I was talking with Kevin Castley, I'm like, that's something I've actually heard people say. That's not something I just pulled out of my booty. That I've literally, at least, well, I'll see it this way, is that I've seen people type that out. You know? But the thing is, though, is that basically all I can say is with those words like, support for, the Chinese Communist, or the Communist Party of China, et cetera, is it's lip service. That's all it is. It's just me saying something or typing something out, and that's it. I don't hold the centrist view where it's like, oh, well, American imperialism bad, but DPRK bad. But I do have my biases. This is the only country I've lived in, et cetera, et cetera. And I know if I say that, then I'm more of a liberal for saying it that way. I need to be, connected with all the workers of the world and everything else. But it's like, I'm just going to say this and people are going to disagree. But I feel like to a point that is idealism. To think, well, all the workers of the world will get along and, we're going to have a better world. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe my prejudice is showing. Maybe my chauvinism is showing, as they say. But it's something that, because of that, a lot of people will say that they will still call themselves an Oswald. They will still agree with Cuba, for example, and agree with Fidel Castro. But if you live in the United States, you're never going to be, are you a full member of the club, basically? Or are you just someone, a hanger-on, And I think that's the larger point. It's the same thing when I was talking with Dark Synovium. And, I would bring this up. It's like there are some black folks who believe, or, I'll put it this way, new Africans, or whichever term you want to use, that believe they are the real Native Americans. Oh, well, that's nonsense, And it's like basically what his ideology, or what Jason Unruh's ideology, how they fit now is that basically white folks shouldn't be getting involved with business between the natives and new Africans. And I say to myself, that doesn't sound very intelligent. I'm not saying that white folks should be leading the way. What I'm saying is that if you cut white folks out completely, I don't know. I don't know. But I know white folks cannot be racist. I know. I've heard it before. Maybe this is part of a struggle session that I'm having. It's just like, the thing is that once white folks do become a minority, and these are just basically my half-baked thoughts on it. God damn, I'm going for 9.5 minutes. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all like, holy shit, I do not want to listen to some honky, some dumb cracker in Texas talking some bullshit right now. Trying to promote some reaction. I don't even know what it is. I'm just saying my opinion. And you can just say whatever you want to. That's fine. But, the thing is that once white folks do become a minority, which is going to happen in the United States, white folks will become a minority. And in that time, maybe even within my lifetime, it's going to be much harder to say, well, we're against whiteness and not white people. And then folks will say, well, there's not that many white people around. You know, that's the whole thing. So it's harder to recruit and it's harder to win hearts and minds. I'm using that phrase again because it just sounds good, I guess. I don't know. It probably isn't, but you know, it's harder to bring people in and to convince them of these ideas, you know. Like I say, ultimately, I like to think of myself as somewhat of a pragmatist. Um, I feel like at the end of the day, we're all going to have to make our own choices. I've repeated this over and over, but I do want to have a thorough line of me trying to say this, and maybe I believe my own bullshit, which may be not a good thing. But I feel like at the end of the day, everybody's going to make their own choice, and everyone is going to do what's best for them at that moment. I know it's an individualist thing. I know Americans Americans have ruined individualism. I get it, but that is my belief. That is my solid belief that ultimately individuals are going to make their choice and join a whichever collective they feel benefits them the most or in the best way at the time right now. You know? And if that means being a hustler, if that means doing I don't know, whichever, joining some military or joining Antifa, however I feel about it is if you feel that that's best for you and defending yourself and getting yourself fed, then people do what they have to do. I don't know. Like I say, I'm trying to bring it back around. I'm trying to be consistent. It may not be the best, but I would welcome your comments. I always welcome comments, no matter if they're positive or negative. Just say, look, I appreciate what you're saying, but you're talking out of your ass. And I'd love to see that. Just tell me. Just tell me if I'm being full of shit. Please do. Because, you know, like I say, I hold the view. Here's one last thing, then we'll end it. Golly, 13 minutes. Okay. Is if you're not humble, life will make you humble. Sorry. mm, mm, mm. Sorry there. Just waking up a little bit. Anyway, I think that pretty well covers all of what I wanted to say. I know that was ranting, you know, this nice schizo sort of Uncle Thomas way of doing things and to put it out. But hopefully y'all can follow that line. I kind of went back and forth. I try to stay online. I say to myself, well, you know what? It's a more personal thing, but basically I could not screw it. I might as well do it now. We're going on for 15 minutes, but I was going to say is that I could have done this at 2 a.m. and made this sound a little bit better and a little bit shorter. But I said, nah, I got to try to get to sleep. So that's why I waited until now to now record it and everything else. Anyway, but yeah, please feel free. I do want to reiterate this point. Please feel free to agree to disagree or, you know, just say, look, I think you're on the right path, but you need to maybe read this better so that you can get a better understanding or whatever. I will fully admit, like I say, is that I have my biases. I have my views that aren't correct. And, you know, in some ways I'm very stubborn in my views. So And I fully admit that. So I guess, just like I say, I still do encourage people to say that. And, YouTube will delete comments. I don't delete comments other than the porn ones. I will try to be honest once again though. Other than the porn ones, which are pretty obvious, but other than the porn ones, I usually don't delete comments. I'll put it that way. So I want to just say that for the record. Um, yeah, I think that pretty well covers it. I know you're like, holy shit, I'm not going to sit through some guy. I'm not going to sit through Uncle Thomas ranting for nearly 16 minutes over some bullshit. But I feel like it's a discussion that needs to be talked about. And if I'm more in that vein, if I call myself a socialist, I have to at least, God damn, I might as well just say it, give lip service to the idea. So yeah. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed that long, somewhat schizo rant. I think that there is a fairly thorough line. You just have to kind of, you know, not take the back roads that I was on, and just stay on the main drag, and we'll get there. But anyway, I hope you'll enjoy that. Goodbye.